Labour are to bring in automatic voter registration under plans to boost the franchise. We're going to read into this exclusive from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an exclusive from The Guardian with the headline that Labour are to bring in automatic voter registration under plans to boost the franchise. The exclusive revealed that the party's voting reform proposals could add millions more people to the electoral roll for future polls. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share us across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, I personally do not think that we should be in talking about, I want to just bring up, obviously, voter ID before we talk about this automatic voter registration. Because as far as I'm aware, that in terms of voter ID, the Labour Party, a Labour government is going to review the ID situation with regards to that, is what my understanding is, what I've read and what I've heard. Whether or not they will scrap it completely is another matter. I know that the Liberal Democrats have said they would in their manifesto, that they would scrap it. I'm not 100% sure what the Greens were saying about it. I don't think they mentioned anything in it in their manifesto, to be fair. And the Conservatives, well, obviously want to keep the status quo because they want to obviously hold on to power. So I think automatic voter registration, it's not forcing people to vote, but putting them on that voting poll could really make a difference to people being able to remembering to cast their votes or not cast their votes. That could be on the day, and that could make a difference in terms of people wanting to be able to vote and not being able to. I definitely think this is something that we need to do more to encourage more people to be able to vote. Obviously, as of right now, and I'm sure everyone is in agreement with me, that politics right now is pretty crap. The enthusiasm is not really there. Many people feel dejected, feel lost, they feel betrayed. 14 years of the same political party really does emphasise that point. But many people have also lost trust and confidence within the Labour Party, whether you like it or don't like it. There's a lot of people who feel that way. There are those who obviously feel that dejection of betrayal by the Liberal Democrats back in 2010 when they failed to keep their promise there. There's obviously the failure of not just of the 14 years of Conservatives, but promises that they've not been able to keep, like the Renters Reform Bill. The parts in there, obviously being able to protect renters as there for it, just as one of many examples that the Conservatives have failed to do. And obviously Keir Starmer rolling back on the £28 billion Green Pledge, not U-turning completely on it, but rolling back on the amount of investment in it. Which has obviously upset a lot of Green voters without a shadow of a doubt. So there's a lot of things that people have just lost trust and confidence in politics, and the only way you're going to change that perception is by action. Words aren't just going to be enough anymore. It's not going to be good enough for a politician to simply say that I'm going to do this and this and that. They need to show it. This is what it's going to be all about. It's going to be about showing it. You know, you hear it a lot from Nigel Farage saying he's going to do this, he's going to do this, he's going to do this. We haven't seen Nigel Farage actually do anything except waffle. And Keir Starmer is going to be the next Prime Minister. We're 90% sure of that. So the waffling is going to stop, and it's time to see the action. We want to see that action. We want to see that change. Cross fingers for the better. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Keir Starmer. And that's not going to change for some people. But over time, perhaps, maybe he will. But it's really important that whoever you are out there, and I understand how you feel. If you have the power to vote, cast your vote, make your voice heard on July the 4th. Don't sit out, even if you're voting for the Monster Rain losing party. You know, even if you're from Count Binface's constituency, even if you're a Liberal Democrat or if you've been a lifelong Conservative and you're voting Reform. I don't agree with Reform UK, but if you're going to vote Reform, that's fine. At least you're casting your democratic vote. And that's what's the most important thing, guys, is that you are casting your vote and you're having your voice, you're having your say, even if the voting system we have is poor. So let's read more into this, guys. So Labour is planning to introduce automatic registration for voting under plans to add millions more people to the electoral roll for future elections, especially young people, The Guardian has learned. Automatic voter registration, AVR, which exists in several European countries, would come on top of planned reforms already announced by Keir Starmer's party, such as extending the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds. Together, they could significantly shake up the voting franchise if Labour gets into power next week. Currently, people in the UK need to register if they are to vote. Under automatic registration, the electoral roll complied from other records, for example, those linked to tax or passport data, with people added by default. An estimated 7 to 8 million people are missing or incorrectly recorded on current registers, many of them young, as well as a disproportionate number who are poor and who live in privately rented homes. Younger people tend to be more likely to support Labour, raising the possibility that automatic registration would boost the party. Labour's manifesto says it will improve voter registration, with the party refusing to elaborate further. But the electoral officials told The Guardian the reference was a commitment towards automatic registration across the UK. A Labour source denied that the party had committed to going ahead with the idea. Okay. Interesting. The devolved Labour government in Wales has already committed to trialling the change, there to work out the best way for it to operate. When the plan was proposed, the Welsh government opposed it, saying automatic registration could cause confusion and people should be able to register themselves without any problem. Yeah, but not everyone's got... I don't think that's right. Not everybody knows or remembers to register to vote, and I think everybody should be given that option. Given that option, whether they want to vote or not. People should not have to jump through hoops to be able to vote. The choice should be there. If you want to vote, vote. If you don't want to vote, that's your choice. But we encourage you to vote. And it should be made as easy as possible for people to vote as well. This is, however, not the case for some groups, particularly people who move frequently, such as students. A survey group by the charity MenCap found that 60% of people with learning disabilities found registering vote too difficult. The Electoral Commission data shows that while 96% of people aged 65 or over registered to vote, this falls to 60% for those aged 18 to 19 and 67% for people aged 20 to 24. Similarly, 95% of homeowners are registered against 65% of private renters. Other statistics have shown that the worst affected constituencies, mainly ones with younger and more transient populations, including in London, Sheffield and Bristol, around 20% of eligible voters are unregistered. The Electoral Reform Society, which campaigns to make voting easier, said it would welcome the plans. Dr. Jess Garland is head of research and policy, called it a win-win for voters, as it would take one thing off their to-do list, while at the same time strengthening our democracy and helping to enfranchise millions of missing voters. She said participating is a vital sign of the health of our democracy, so it is crucial that many people as possible are able to vote. AVR, which is already used widely around the world and due to come in for Wales, would help reinvigorate our democracy and improve participation for future elections. The introduction of measures such as voter ID in recent years mean people now face more barriers to casting their vote than at previous elections. It is crucial that we reverse this trend by expanding access to voting and making it easier for people to exercise their basic democratic right. The Welsh plan, which sets out in a bill still going through the seed, pledges to pilot the most appropriate means to achieve AVR. An Electoral Commission report last year into how it could happen UK-wide suggested input from data systems including driver and vehicle licensing agencies, HM Passport Office and HM Revenue and Customs, which helps from the Information Commissioner Office on how to safely share such data. Under a system in Sweden, anyone who appeared on a population register compiled by tax authorities automatically registered and sent a polling card 30 days before the election day, with about 96% of eligible voters registered. The mention in Labour's manifesto comes in a wider section of constitutional reform, which promises to reduce the voter age to 16 and address inconsistencies in the way mandatory ID rules for voting currently works. Robert Ford, a professor from political science at Manchester University, said that the potential electoral impact and the proposed changes was uncertain. It depends on how many of these people vote, and given they have not registered before, the baseline assumption about their engagement level would be a fairly low one. Yeah, they would probably. It would be like a case of if people don't know politics or not into it, they'd probably just go by the name if they thought the name might be appealing. Because that's how sometimes people just vote based on the names of the politicians rather than just the political party when they don't even know anything about politics. That's just how some people do. Additionally, Ford said, with many seats in the lower levels of registration tend to be Labour strongholds. Anyway, while many students who were not registered where they were studying were registered elsewhere, but regardless of the political or logistical implications, this is the right thing to do. We should be making it easy as possible to vote. The current system we have was never introduced for any particular legal reason. It was just administrative convenience. Most countries have better and more modern ways of registering voters. Ours is deeply antiquated. What Labour is and isn't promising on voter reform. So this is what they're actually saying here. So voting at 16 and 17, this has already happened in Scotland and Wales' devolved elections, and the manifesto promises to make the UK changes wide for all elections. While Labour opposes the introduction of mandatory ID for voting, it does not propose to abolish this. Instead, the manifesto promises to address the inconsistencies of voter ID rules, while the only specific example cited is allowing armed forces veteran cards to be used to vote. It is possible Labour could add to the list of vital documents that are used by students and young people. Like I said, they need to, okay, the false veterans card obviously is something I've covered in another one, but yeah, young people are missing out here, and this is ridiculous. Younger people don't have some of the forms of ID that they have with, which is more than reasonable, is not an adequate use of ID, which is absolutely nonsense. But I've always said about voter ID that, and I've said this on a recent live stream as well, is that either, if you're going to stick with it, everyone needs to be given a free form of identification. Everyone in the UK needs to be given a free form of identification, an ID card that you can use literally everywhere in the UK. And I wouldn't just go as far as just something in your hand or in your phone, in your personal wallet or whatever. I would go as far as even to say like an app of some sorts, like that would be owned by the government, run by a third party or something, that will set up the system for the government, that would basically have your on your mobile device would be your ID within that sort of thing. So maybe something like a digital ID identification card, as well as maybe a card one as well. That should be free to people. And I do use that word free. Yes, it comes out of taxpayers' money, but we're denying people's right to vote, regardless of who they are and whatever their voting intention. Everyone should be given the right to vote, even if you vehemently disagree with them wanting to vote a certain way. And proportional representation, this is very popular with Labour members, and after a series of trade unions that had previously opposed the idea changed their stance, Labour's 2022 conference overwhelmingly backed a motion calling on the party to embrace the proportional electoral system. However, this has no force on the leadership, and while Keir Starmer previously has been advocate of proportional representation, there is no mention of it in the manifesto. Well, as for the proportional representation, we don't know if Labour will bring that down the line or not. It's just a case of a lot of speculation. Yes, it was voted on at their last conference, but at the 2022 conference, but that does not mean that Labour are going to back it. So it's a case of we will have to wait and see. If they do, great. If they don't, then obviously there needs to be a lot of anger towards them, because obviously it means they're holding on to power and they're denying people's denying a free and fair voting system, because we need one right now. We really, really do. But as for automatic voter registration, yes, there are some niggles and there are some issues around some of the things as was highlighted in this piece here from The Guardian. I absolutely agree. But I think it should be made as simple as possible for people to be able to vote. And if people need to make any necessary changes, they should be informed that they need to make necessary changes to the registering details. Obviously, if they move place or whatnot, they need to. It should be their ownership responsibility to let people know of that. But yes, I do think automatic voter registration should be something that we should get behind. If you can't talk about democracy if you're not going to make it as easy as possible for people to cast their votes. So I don't think anyone has an issue with this, if I'm personally honest. But I there's always going to be someone complaining somewhere. So in that sense, what do you guys honestly think? What do you think about automatic voter registration? The proposal that Labour may introduce in a future Labour government down the line. What do you guys make of that and some of the other plans in terms of voting, the changes to ID rules and proportional representation? Let me know your thoughts about all of them and more in the comment section down below. But if you found this video interesting, please hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.